Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 6 Degrees of Feature Film podcast. I am Sarah, also known as Brienne, also known as Miss Movies.
And I'm Stacey Howard, aka David Bowie's codpiece, maybe?
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Great.
And we have a guest.
And we have a special guest today, and that
Who's
is
the
Clark
guest?
Wolf.
Hello, everyone. I'm just a fan of all of the things they just mentioned.
You can be Toby. How
Oh,
about
yeah,
Toby?
you can be baby Toby.
Or who else?
I'll be any of
Hoggle.
them. Hoggle.
You can be Hoggle.
I'll be the little fairy that bites people's hands off.
Mhm.
The little worm.
You can be the hands.
I'll be the worm. I'll be
All the
any of them.
hands.
I'm up for it.
In case you haven't guessed, our feature film today is Labyrinth. What we do on this show is we take one film and we show how 6 other films link up to that film in some random way, shape, or form. But before we do that, we want to get to know our guest a little bit. So, Clark,
Hello.
hi.
Oh.
Tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Clark Wolf, and I am an actress and a host, and I host the show Collider Nightmares on Collider Video, and where we talk about all things genre. So that's horror, sci-fi, fantasy, thrillers, all kinds of fun things in the world of TV and film and comic books, and sometimes video games and music. It's just basically a big genre love fest.
I love it.
I
That
love
sounds
it.
right up Stacey's alley because
Yes.
that's her genre.
Oh, I
my
love it.
favorite genre is horror. My favorite movie is The Silence of the Lambs.
Oh,
Which is technically not a horror movie. It's a thriller. I get it. But a lot of people are horrified by it. I was not. I loved it.
a lot of
so.
people call it a horror movie. I think
Mhm.
that that's very fair, and one of the last movies to sweep the Oscars in all the big categories.
Yes, that's right.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
I love it.
And how do we all know each other?
Yes.
The
How
internet.
do we know?
Yes.
The internet. Mainly Twitter. That's
Mainly
probably where we
Twitter,
all
yeah.
meet first.
Mhm.
But then we do a show where we answer trivia questions about movies. And so that's kind of how we got connected with the Schmodown in a way.
Sure.
Mhm.
Or
I think
kind of how we
I
met.
think we had been talking on Twitter before,
Right.
way before the Schmodown.
I think I
right?
saw you first, like in person, at a panel for Comikaze, which is now LA Comic
Oh,
Con. Not this past year, but the year before.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, Holly Payne, who is a producer on John Schnepp's documentaries, she puts
Mhm.
those panels together every year, and yeah, I've done it with her every year that she's done it
Oh,
at
nice.
Comic Con, and I'm always happy to be there.
It's a panel about women in film or women in geekdom,
Yeah,
I would say.
I think
Mhm.
geekdom and pop culture, yeah, for
Mm.
sure. Lots of different kinds of ladies.
I love it. Lady Love.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Let's get into our feature film, which is Labyrinth, which came out June 27th, 1986. For those that have not seen this film, a 16-year-old girl is given 13 hours to solve a labyrinth and rescue her baby brother when her wish for him to be taken away is granted by the Goblin King. I wore my Pac-Man dress because we are talking labyrinth, and I figured what's most labyrinth-like that'll be okay on camera, because sometimes you get patterns and then it's like, oh, why'd you do that? Anyways, fair. That's a little tangent. But so I think I saw this probably on VHS as a teenager, I would guess.
Oh wow.
And
So this wasn't a movie you grew up with.
well, let's see. I was 5 when it released, so probably like maybe preteen.
Uh-huh.
So when it came out on VHS, probably shortly thereafter.
When did you watch it?
I didn't see it until last year. I've never seen it. I knew of it. I knew of it. My mom loved it. It was a little before my time. So it came out when it was 86, so about 4 years before I had come into the world. And it was just kind of in the background of every movie discussion. I was always like, okay, that sounds like an interesting film. And I just knew like David Bowie had like a giant package and he was super weird. And there was like a dance scene and I was like,
Mhm.
And then I watched it and it's just magical and wonderful and weirdly, really, really weird, but in that great 80s way.
Well,
where it's, like,
I'm
not
glad to
explained.
hear you say that because I always wonder. This is a movie that I grew up with. My babysitter showed it to me on VHS.
Nice.
you
Good
know,
babysitter.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
babysitter. It's funny because people always ask me, how did you get interested in horror movies? And I always tell them it was dark fantasy was like my gateway. So when I, and I had this great babysitter who I'm still friends with to this day, and she's very artistic, but she showed me Labyrinth, The Never-Ending Story, and Beetlejuice, and all of
Nice.
these like 80s fantasy films. I think Legend was in there at some
Mhm.
point. And that was really what got me into it. But people sometimes, like you were saying with David Bowie and his costumes and all that, it's so funny because I sincerely, like, I mean this 1000%. I didn't notice any of that until somebody pointed it out to me when I was like a teenager, and they had never seen it for the first time. And like when you're a teenager, that was the first thing they saw, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" I just didn't even register. But it makes me so happy to see that as an adult, you were able to come to it and be like, "Oh, this is such a weird, beautiful, magical, like special thing." Because sometimes I wonder if people would be like, "What the hell is this?"
Sure.
But
I think this is someone had said this before, and I was like, that's actually pretty perfect. This is the female Goonies.
No,
like
you
don't think we hold it in that sort of nostalgia, not like story wise, but that we hold it in that nostalgia of 80s.
I love
whereas
Goonies.
Guys hold Goonies in the 80s nostalgia.
Well, I'm not with you on that one.
Okay,
I love Goonies. I'm a Goonie. I'm a Goonie, and but I do think that maybe young men didn't find it, or didn't gravitate to it maybe as naturally as a lot of girls of a certain age did.
Right.
I do think that is fair. However, I think that if you are into fantasy and this kind of fairy tale or modern fairy tale, I do think that maybe crosses all genders, because there's just nothing like it in a way. Because I've really tried. Like a lot of people said when Mirror Mask came out a few years ago, like that was like a new Labyrinth.
I don't know Mirror Mask.
Oh, Mirror Mask is from the Jim Henson Company as well. However, it doesn't really focus on puppets, but it's a fantasy though, where a little girl kind of goes into a mystery world. It's a great movie. If you haven't seen Mirror Mask, you should definitely watch it. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for me to find other things like Labyrinth. I don't know. I can't really compare it to anything else.
I feel like there's this other movie that not a lot of people have seen or they talk about. It's called Stardust.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, love Stardust.
Yeah, Stardust is fantastic. It's got Charlie Cox, who's of course Daredevil. It's got Michelle Pfeiffer. Robert De Niro plays a cross-dressing pirate.
Claire Danes.
Claire Danes is gorgeous in it, and so just like such a badass chick. And they're on this journey, and they meet all these characters along the way, and it's got this really like mystical, fantastical, like crazy element to it. So I compare it to stuff like that, where I feel like it has to be compared to Labyrinth. It has to be something that's not terribly well known or well quoted, because Labyrinth it was like a child of its time, and so I don't have a lot of people of my generation to talk about it, especially guys. They're always into like, a different kind of genre. But I feel like what makes Labyrinth great is that not a lot of people have discovered it. Like there's hardcore fans that say this is the greatest movie ever. I love this. And there's other people that are like, I heard that movie's weird. What is this?
Interesting. When the 30th anniversary last year, they did a screening in the big screen. It was Fathom Events, and I went in Burbank, and I have to say I was shocked at how diverse the crowd was. I mean, it was people who clearly grew up on the movie. It was dads bringing their little kids, boys, girls. I mean, the theater was packed, and it was packed with people of all ages, all ethnicities, all backgrounds, and I thought that was really, really cool.
Have you ever been to the Ball? They do a ball in Los Angeles.
What? I want to go to the Ball.
I don't know what you have to do to get tickets.
You just buy them.
Okay.
And it's a 2-day event, so you can buy. You can go on a Friday night or a Saturday night, and it's I want to say it is dangerously close to Comic-Con every year.
Okay.
Or it's in the late summer, and because I remember talking to a girlfriend
of
mine. Yeah,
to be in costuming.
And people get into this beautiful costumes. There's a woman who actually makes costumes specifically for this event that she rents out.
Oh my gosh.
People go all out. Yeah, like I've always wanted to go, and I've never been.
I know. I want to go too.
I
just don't know how I would get an outfit. Like, what would I,
Yeah, or you can make your own. It's like cosplay.
Yeah,
that's true. I could definitely not make my own. Although maybe out of it could get crazy.
Well, you could be
bubble
a
wrap
fairy,
and
or
trash.
you could be so many different creatures in that world.
That's true. Yeah. Some interesting things that I found about this. Okay, so he like juggles these crystal balls, which apparently was done by another person behind him that was
Yeah.
crouched down,
Oh, yeah.
which is amazing, first of all, because that person had to, first of all, be crouched doing these hand motions with the crystal balls, but then that person also couldn't see what they were doing, so he was doing everything blind. I was like, that, how do you
So
find this person?
amazing.
How do
Yeah.
you audition for that? And like, or where does someone find you? That's what I want to know, those stories. Like, this is very interesting, but now I need to know more about the person themselves and how they got this job. And if there's some other person out there that's like, yeah, I should have gotten that job, how they didn't pick me, but I was
Yeah.
pretty good too.
That was pretty good.
Like, how does that work?
The full costume for Hoggle, though, it was lost for a long time, but they found it on an airplane.
What?
And then they put it in one of those lost or found luggage stores where you can, like, it's kind of like where you can buy, old storage spaces that have been abandoned or whatever. And so they bought it for a store in Scottsboro, Alabama. So now it's on display in their museum. So can you imagine finding a costume like that and be like, what the fuck? Like, I think there was like a little monster back there. Like, I would think it was real and that, it was going to attack me.
The Center for Puppetry Arts in Atlanta, where I'm from, has a huge labyrinth exhibit. It opened in the fall of last year, and I think it's going to run for, I think it was like, it opened Thanksgiving or September or November of 2016, and I think it runs until 2017 at the same time. And so I'm headed back to Atlanta for some wedding stuff, not for me, for my best friend. And so I'm definitely going to be going, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited.
Are you going to dress in any, like, anything from the movie?
I wish I had.
Okay.
I wish I had costume. I would. I totally would. I know she might be a
little.
little pricey for me, but yeah, I would love to have some sort of Sarah costume.
And then you can keep that for when you go to the ball.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so then it's reused.
Exactly.
I like this idea.
Fantastic.
This is the final feature film directed by Jim Henson. It's kind of sad about that. But I love that his work still lives on.
Mhm.
Like, I feel like he really lives on in everything that I see, like the Muppet Show and even things like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. The puppetry done there is from his studio. So I like that he has a legacy that he has left and will continue to live on.
Yeah, his son Brian, I don't know if this was his first ever film that he worked on, but it was definitely his first major film that he worked on in terms of being a puppet, doing the puppetry and that kind of thing. And I recently went, this is what a big fantasy nerd I am, I suppose. I recently went to the Egyptian here in Los Angeles, where there was a double feature of Legend followed by Labyrinth.
Okay.
And in between was a Q&A with Brian Henson and Mia Sara, who actually are married. Funny enough.
didn't know that.
Yeah, and so they did this great Q&A, and it was really interesting. But Brian Henson talked about how that was a really hard shoot, and how his dad they wanted everything to be perfect, but everything they were doing was very ambitious. And while he has great memories of that shoot, it was also a really hard shoot for him because it was, and his dad was hard on him, and because they wanted everything to be great. But it was so, and he also talked about how there were some scenes that they couldn't get to, that they had to cut. And so of course I raised my hand and I was like, can
tell
you
us about that.
And he said, honestly, it's been 30 years and I can't remember like what the specifics
that would be
were.
Interesting
Because
if that came up somewhere.
I think I heard about one though. It was like you see a map of the whole place and everything's like moving within the map or something.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that one. Maybe.
I feel like it's in the IMDb.
This is not the Marauders map, Stacey.
Okay, I'm sorry. This isn't Harry Potter, another fantastical thing that I love. I feel like I've read, if you go into IMDb trivia, it'll tell you about a few deleted scenes. So I would definitely watch that.
Yeah,
or
I
read
wonder
that.
because I don't think, even if that is true, they're not on the DVDs. Like they didn't shoot anything else.
Man.
Yeah, no, trust me. I would have been all up in that.
Yeah, it's too bad they didn't like storyboard them and then like go through it.
That's what I was trying to find
in the
out
DVD
from him,
features
but
or something.
He didn't seem to be. He didn't. Maybe he just didn't remember.
Yeah,
that's
maybe.
true. I think it's crazy that Jennifer Connelly was 15 when the movie was released, turning 16 that year. But that means that she was either 15 during filming or 14. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what was I doing at 14?
Good. She's so good in that movie.
She's
too.
so beautiful. Her eyebrows are just perfect. Like it's amazing.
There's also, you can watch online her audition. And
cool.
it is really sweet, and you can watch it's really, really cool to see the beginnings of all of that. And I want to say Jim Henson even gets in there and kind of directs her, or maybe he's reading with her. But she's just so beautiful, and the character is clearly there, and you look at it and you're just like, wow, that's definitely it. It's really neat.
I'm going to watch that right after this. I also love the audition for the kid for E.T. That's another one that I
Yeah, that's
love.
I
really
haven't
fun.
seen that one.
You got to watch that one and how he books it in the room. I think Jawan was telling us about this story about the ET audition, and so then I watched that and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know. I'm like, I did acting for a time, and I just am so enthralled by people that can like go there to certain spots, and I'm like, I just can't. I can't get there all the time in acting. That's probably why I don't act. It makes sense. Shall we move on to our link, or is there anything else we would like to say about Labyrinth before we close this up?
Oh, it's so good.
See it if you have not,
And go see Mirror Mask. If you like Labyrinth, watch Mirror Mask.
Do you know like around what time that came out?
96.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm sorry, 2006.
Okay.
2006, 2008, maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
Cool. I will check it out.
So what we're going to link to, I tried my best to figure out, because as the people that are regular listeners, watchers of the program know, like when we have a guest on, I like to have them give me a list of films, and then I try to link at least 3 together. So I did my best to figure out a link. So my link is movies that were released between 86 and 88. So that's what we have.
Good. I love it.
So we are going to link from Labyrinth to, let's go to A Fish Called Wanda.
Oh, yay.
So that came out August 5th, 1988. In London, 4 very different people team up to commit armed robbery, then try to double cross each other for the loot. So that's the basic premise of this movie. The first time I watched this was 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I also like about this show, is that this is like a learning opportunity for me, and being able to catch up on films, because then people will bring movies I haven't seen and then I have to watch them.
Did you like it?
I did. Oh, it was hilarious.
I love this movie so much.
There's only a few things that I knew about the movie going into it. I knew that there would be a live fish eaten,
Yes.
and some crazy sex scene, and that's all I know. And that's all I knew.
I
from this film.
might have a link for you.
Okay.
Wait a second. I gotta. Well, it's loose.
Okay. That's what we do here. We do loose links.
Yes.
Okay, so here it is.
Mhm.
Terry Jones
Okay.
of Monty Python.
Yes.
Wrote Labyrinth.
Oh, there you go.
And Terry Jones, of course, is in Monty Python, and
Mhm.
so is John Cleese.
Does that link to our other movie?
Well,
is
that
the
I don't
next
know. I'd have to
question.
keep
That's
looking.
the
I'd have
ticker.
to-
That's
I'd have
the
to keep
hard one.
thinking
But we're
about
close.
that.
How do we link
So
We're
those?
close. I love it.
Close.
This is directed by Charles Crichton and an uncredited John Cleese directing. And it's also starring John Cleese, Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Kline, Michael Palin. Okay. Writers John Cleese and Charles Crichton, which I would say Crichton. I'm not sure if I say that correctly, and I apologize, but I want to say Michael Crichton, which is not who it is.
I just want to see Kraken. Like, release the Kraken.
Sure.
I just want to see that. It's Crichton. Who knows?
I do know that this won Best Supporting Actor for Kevin Kline, was also nominated for Best Director and Best Original Screenplay for that year. Yeah, let's talk about this movie. It's
Have you seen it?
hilarious.
I have. It's been a while. It's been a few years. I will say, though, when I was reading the trivia about this, there was a man that literally laughed himself to death
I read that.
when watching
Is
this
that
movie.
true?
It's
I need to
absolutely
We
true.
got to
Is
double
it?
fact check
My
that.
son has confirmed this. So the man, he was a Danish man in Denmark, was
Sad.
watching the movie in the theater and laughed himself, or was laughing at the scene with the where Ken has the chips on his nose, and was recalling something else that reminded him of it. And as he was laughing, he had a heart attack and he died.
Oh my God, I've
So-
never heard that. That's amazing. Well, I mean, it's terrible, obviously, but
Yeah.
that's wow.
So
That's
he
pretty
obviously had other heart issues. This
Yeah.
is not just I'm laughing so much.
Mhm.
This is the laughter has triggered my heart issue.
But apparently, so
As
his
well.
heart got up to a heart rate between 250 and 500 beats per minute.
That's a lot.
Which is a lot. I don't know how they know that. Can they? I guess they can test that. Maybe. No idea how medical stuff works. But yeah, imagine like saying, "Oh, my father died last week. You know, when's the funeral? How did he die? Well, he laughed himself to death. He was watching a movie, and like imagine just like that's your story." And the son talks about it. Like I think he was interviewed by some people. It's super crazy. Super crazy.
Wow.
And sad.
Yeah.
Jamie Lee Curtis, I love her in this movie. I like her character. I love that she's like seducing every single person
That's
in the
great.
film. I was like, yes, this is my lady. This is the character that I would want to play.
Oh, was that
someday.
what you do?
Yes,
Marie?
that's
You
what
just-
I do. I
she
seduce
just-
everyone.
She seduces me all the time.
All the
So,
time.
Why do you think I'm here?
I do love it's interesting because I've never thought of that way. And so it's funny to hear it put that way because that's like I feel like you're right. That is true. However, her character is so above it all that and it's so dismissive of all of these people. And I
Yes.
think it's really fabulous. These are characters that I think you just don't see very often across the board. Kevin Kline's character is so great and Kevin Kline is so good. Like it's got to be, we can't understate the fact that doing this type of broad comedy is really hard to do. I mean, you know, because he's saying the most idiotic things but with such a straight face and you can tell that he believes it and that the reason that he's able to do this is because he's such a good dramatic actor that this is a real person that he's created. And I just love this whole cast. And they don't make this is a movie that is not PC. It is a bit mean spirited.
Yes.
But I just I love it so much. And it's there's a movie that came out a few years ago called Seven Psychopaths, and which is another movie that I love. And I have to say, Sam Rockwell's performance in Seven Psychopaths to me is akin to Kevin Kline's performance in this movie. Like he is so insane, but he does it with such a straight face that I think it would be a great double feature. So if you're looking for a double feature, that's one that I always recommend.
Going off of the sad someone dies story to a good story, Michael Palin went on to found the London Center for Stammering Children after a group of stutterers confronted him regarding the sensitivity with which he dealt with Ken's handicap in this film. So some good came out of this movie as well. So that is nice. Thank you, Michael Palin.
Nice. Love it. Fantastic. A Fish Called Wanda. And now, is this streaming anywhere? How did you watch it?
I had iTunes. I had to rent it for $3.
Okay. That's not too bad.
I made a list. Okay. I'm working hard to fill in the holes that I have of cinema, such as A Fish Called Wanda. I made a list of movies that are like big movies that I missed, and I have them on my phone. And I went through yesterday to look on Netflix, on Amazon to see, are these on there? Are these streaming? No, they are not. They are all DVD only. So I'm going to have to change to that plan or add that plan on for Netflix.
I'm a dinosaur and still have the DVD plan.
Okay,
on
good,
my Netflix
good.
Because
I'm gonna
there's
need it.
stuff that it's like you were saying, holes in your knowledge that that you want to catch up on. The other thing I've started doing is if you have a cable subscription, I don't know if you guys do, if you go online and register your cable subscription, oftentimes you can see what is on demand.
Okay,
And
that's
so
good.
that's I always check that first because that pulls from HBO, Cinemax, FX, like a bunch of different networks. So that's a little.
If only my
sneaky trick.
husband allowed us to have a cable plan, that would be great.
There you
He's
go.
very anti. I don't know what his issue is.
I may be using my
I'm
parents.
Oh, good.
I mean, I just stream everything, There's nothing that's exclusively on cable that I'm like, I need to see that. I'm dying. Like, no. I have plenty of entertainment on my fingertips. Just last night I had someone give me their like Hulu stuff to watch. Well, they gave it to me to watch Sicario.
Okay.
I'm gonna keep
yes,
it though.
love Sicario.
not
Okay,
gonna log
you're
out.
not going to log out.
No,
All right,
I'm gonna
good.
keep using it. So there you
That's
go.
kind of how it works. It's sharing is caring.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
really.
You do that for the people that are in your life.
You're not pirating it.
No.
So that's good.
Yeah, I'm pirating
Even though-
from
Someone
them.
is paying
I'm
for
not
it.
pirating from the
Someone's
film.
paying.
Someone's paying for it.
And with
it's
like
not me.
Netflix, it allows you to watch on so many screens.
Right.
So why couldn't you pay, like if someone's paying for 4 screens, I'll give you a screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Why not? Why
I'll be
not?
generous. That's the charity. That's
Oh, you're
my
so
giving.
Nice. You're so nice.
Anyways, back to A Fish Called Wanda. This is
Okay.
what happens. We get on random tangents
We always
about
always
streaming
get on that tangent.
devices.
Mhm.
I do like one thing that they said in the trivia is that Archie and Wendy sleep in separate beds, just like Basil and Sybil do in Faulty Towers, which was co-created by John Cleese. I loved Faulty Towers. I watched it on PBS. I love how the sign of Faulty Towers, they would always change to like say different sayings. The only one that I ever remember is flowery twats. So there you go.
Oh,
Hilarious.
New band name. I
love
called it.
I
New
love it.
band name.
Love it.
Let's move on to our next movie.
Okay.
So again, movies that were released between 96 and 98. So we started
86
with
and 88.
86, sorry, 86 and 88. We started with Labyrinth, went to A Fish Called Wanda. I didn't do this in number order. I should have. And now we're going to The Princess Bride,
Yay!
which we did on our very first episode of this show. And
We
I
did.
thought it's time to revisit it because
Always.
it's a film that we love.
Great movie. It's so good. I just, it's funny. So I grew up watching this movie. My dad showed me this movie when I was
Mhm.
very young. The book is it's my favorite book that I've ever read. The book is so good, by the way. Like if you guys are a fan of the movie, it's almost like the director's cut because
Mhm.
these characters, like you realize the casting was so perfect. And so the movie is almost like the highlight reel. And then when you read the novel, it's just like more. It's really, really,
Nice.
it's such an incredible adaptation, like novel
Mhm.
to screen adaptation. But I've been, I could probably recite this movie from memory. So recently I went back to the Egyptian. I love the Egyptian here in LA. And saw a screening. Carrie L. West was there afterwards, and he did told some
Nice.
stories because he's got this book where it's all the behind the scenes stories. of
Isn't
the
it called
Princess
As You
Bride.
Wish?
Yes.
Okay.
And but I will say that seeing it on the big screen, and this might have been the first time I'd ever seen it on the big screen, the movie finally all worked for me. So what I mean by that, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. But when I watch it, it's like there's some parts I like better. I like the beginning better, and then sometimes I'm like, oh, I enjoyed the end this time. Seeing it on the big screen, I just realized like Rob Reiner is so like the direction is absolutely perfect. The movie flows so well, but seeing it in a theater with an audience, and it wasn't one of those like shout alongs where everybody
Okay,
is
good.
quoting it. Like we were all respectfully watching the movie, and it all just clicked for me. It is a great film. I think it is as great a film as everybody sort of says it is. But I think with this and Labyrinth, these are both cult movies that came out and kind of didn't do much
Right.
when they first were released, and then really grew and gained a legacy on home video, which is really cool.
Did you, when you read this book, did you read the anniversary version where they add the next part of the story?
So yes, there is a chapter called Buttercup's Baby from Buttercup's Baby, this alleged sequel that William Goldman
Mhm.
will never write.
Right.
But if he did, I would read it.
Mhm.
And and I did. The name of the first chapter in Buttercup's Baby is Fezzik Dies. That's the name of the first chapter.
Oh, no.
But knowing William Goldman, there's probably a little bit more to the story. As we know, is he
Right.
mostly dead? There's a big
Mostly
difference
dead.
between
Mhm.
mostly dead and all dead.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
All you just need is chocolate covered.
And Buttercup's baby is named Waverly, which is my daughter's name. What do you know?
Whoa!
That is a coincidence, actually. I found that out after I
You
decided
didn't
to name her
her
Waverly.
after Buttercup's baby.
No.
I
Love
think
that.
you did subconsciously.
I will. I
think you did.
can pretend and tell people that, but really, it's not true. So
It's an interesting story, and you need to keep it that way.
You know what else is
Between
interesting?
us, guys.
I will say what's interesting about the novel as compared to the book, or I'm sorry, the movie, is that Buttercup in the movie is very strong. She's outspoken. She's determined. In the book, she is a dingbat.
Oh.
And it's actually really funny. Like she's, it's that type of humor where Wesley's just like, I love you, but you need to stop. But it's not in a condescending way. Like it's actually, and she's beautiful. The thing is, she's the most beautiful woman in all of the world, right? And so she becomes the Princess Bride. But I think if I'm remembering correctly, the journey of her character is she becomes more realized as the novel goes on, because she can't just get by being beautiful anymore.
Right.
And it's a very satirical look at beauty and aging and women, and it's just it's such a good book. Go buy The Princess Bride and read it.
Can I ask a dumb question?
Yes.
Okay, so is the book just like the movie where it's a grandpa telling a little boy the story, or is the book the
story
book that they're reading in the movie?
It is a grandpa. It's a parent reading a story.
Oh,
so yeah,
it's a story within a story.
Yeah,
like a movie within a movie. I love those things.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I've never had the guts to ask that.
No,
Why not
yeah,
ask it on
it's a
camera in
great
front of
question.
myself?
It's a really good question, and it's really interesting too, because William Goldman actually writes himself into the story.
I love it.
William Goldman, the author, is talking about his career and how he came out and why he's writing this story, or why he's adapting S. Morgenstern's novel, and he doesn't want to take this project on, and because it's called the Good Parts version. So he's basically translating from the Florinese S. Morgenstern's story, but he talks about his son who's overweight, and he's just not, he's young and he's not clicking in school, and then he has this wife, Helen, who's such a bitch, and like it's just like his life is falling apart. None of that is true. William Goldman has 2 daughters. He does not have a son. So he writes himself in, but fictionally, which I think is
That's
so
funny.
clever. It's just
I'm gonna have to read this. That's so
God,
interesting.
Yeah, it's such a great book, you guys. Oh, and I was gonna say the audio version, I believe, is read by Rob Reiner. And so if you know anything, Rob Reiner's obviously a great comedic actor and writer and director. So I would imagine it is a wonderful listen. And like your own grandpa maybe reading it to you, which I love.
Fantastic.
I love that. I remember the first time I saw this was with my cousins at their house on VHS. And I do remember, like, I must have been, I don't know when this came out in terms of like age, in terms of when I may have seen it. But I do remember my aunt and my mom being like, that guy's really good looking. He is
Harry Elwes.
It wasn't him though. It was
is.
Prince Humperdinck that they were like,
Chris
oh my
Sarandon.
gosh.
Chris Sarandon was such a heartthrob at the time.
Yeah.
He really, really was. Yeah.
What else has he been in?
Fright Night. He was
Oh,
Jerry.
yes, I love Fright Night.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
and
Didn't see the original.
oh my God, I'm blanking because he Child's Play. He did a lot of genre movies.
Oh.
But Chris Sarandon. Oh, Dog Day Afternoon. Hello.
Oh.
He's the man who is trying to get his gender reassignment surgery that Al Pacino does the whole.
Got it.
He holds up the bank.
Wow.
Yeah, Dog Day Afternoon is so good.
Uma Thurman auditioned for Buttercup, but she was deemed too exotic for the role.
Interesting.
Too exotic.
God, how
She's
old
like
must she have been?
blonde and she's not exotic.
She's also very tall.
Yeah,
I think
that's
they're
true.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
true. That does unfortunately like mean roles for her because their actors are not tall.
Yeah.
And they have to be like in the frame together. So then you have to make adjustments.
They should just
So I
do a
get it.
little box. Kevin Bacon used
I
the
think
box,
because
Humphrey
there's so
Bogart
much
used the box.
action that makes
Oh,
it
yeah.
harder.
Mhm.
Whereas like if we were just doing a straight up drama, that would be a
Mhm.
little bit easier. I don't know who's on her size level. I just remember one time at some award show when she came out or something happened and both Jamie Foxx and Tom Cruise like jumped up 2 steps behind her so they would seem
Hilarious.
like
I
as
know.
tall as she
That's
was.
so
Oh
funny.
my gosh.
Love it.
That was when they were like promoting Collateral or something. It was like the MTV Movie Awards or something, and I don't know what she was nominated for. My Super Ex-Girlfriend, I have no idea.
Love it.
You have the gentleman's biography and or autobiography here.
Have his movie list.
Okay.
Okay.
So what else has Prince Humperdinck been? That's what I'm going to refer to
Well, you
him
know
as.
Chris Sarandon. Sorry to
Humperdinck.
interrupt, but you know Susan Sarandon gets Sarandon from
Right.
Chris Sarandon. That
Yes,
was her
Oh,
husband.
that's her husband.
I know that
or
now.
ex-husband. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in Fright Night, Princess Bride, Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, he's Jack Skellington.
Yeah, he's Jack Skellington. I did not know that.
Mm.
Child's Play, The Sentinel, recently,
The Sentinel,
recently-ish,
oh my
she
God.
did Safe, which
Mm,
is
that
Jason
was-
Statham's movie
Oh,
that
okay,
no one talks
okay.
about.
Okay.
And I Smile Back.
Uh-huh.
I don't know what he was in that. I can find
Cool.
out.
Okay.
Thanks, Ben.
Love it.
Thanks, Benjineer.
Love it.
He's
Now
our
shut up.
engineer, and his name is Ben, so he's Bengineer.
My friends have started
it.
calling me that because of this.
Thanks,
I
I
love
mentioned
and
it.
you're
it.
welcome.
I love it.
All right,
The
there we
Princess
have it.
Bride.
So we went from Labyrinth, then we did movies that were released between 86 and 88, and we went to A Fish Called Wanda as well as The Princess Bride.
Yes.
And now we're going to have Clark link off of A Fish Called Wanda with two films that somehow link up.
And do
could
you
be
guys
anything.
have to figure out what the link is?
Oh, we could play that
we
game.
could play that game. Yeah.
Okay.
We've never done that before.
Oh,
If it's
really?
the link that I wanted you to do, then I'll be super excited.
It's probably not.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Because okay, so the first movie is Moonstruck.
Oh,
Ah!
share.
Moonstruck.
Oh my god, this is one of my favorite.
So I love Moonstruck so
Mhm.
much. It's such a good movie. I watch it often, actually. Anytime I'm feeling sad about life, I feel like it's
Okay.
because I feel like it's a movie about life, and life is not always easy. And it's also a movie about relationships
Mhm.
and all kinds of relationships, husband and wife, mother and daughter, daughter and father,
Mhm.
lovers and brothers and all of it. And I love it so much. And I think I love Cher. I love
Cher's incredible.
she's such a-
incredible.
she
This
is.
movie.
And it's interesting because I feel like if you don't know her body of work as an actress, it's easy to just think of her as kind of like
A
former
singer.
pop star,
Yeah.
Mhm.
or someone from a different generation. But when you look, and she won an Oscar for this movie. But when you look
did.
at Moonstruck, when you look at The Witches of Eastwick, when you look at Silkwood, when you look at Mask, when you
Mhm.
look at just Mermaids, you look at so many of these movies that she has done. She's an incredible actress.
She is.
And so I love this movie so much. And Nicolas Cage, by the way, I'm a huge Nicolas Cage fan. I think he is insanely talented, and I know that he makes silly movies sometimes,
Mhm.
but you can make as many memes as you want. It doesn't take away from the fact that the man is a fucking awesome actor, and I love him in this movie. He's very
Mhm.
and them together, it's just there's something.
They're so opposite, but
Yeah.
they're so
Yeah.
good.
Yes.
Like they just complement each other.
Yes,
Them at the
absolutely.
opera.
Oh,
Oh,
it's
so great.
fantastic, and he's like crying, and
It's
oh
so
my god,
sweet. Yeah,
He's
it's
so
it's
emotional.
great movie.
This
Great
dress.
movie.
I want the
you,
chat
yeah.
also. Here's something for you, chat friends. Why don't you also guess what Clark's link might
Yeah.
be? And we'll see if we
Yes.
can figure it out
I'm very
together.
curious
So
about
Moonstruck
this.
is the first one.
Yes.
Gosh, I don't remember when I saw this, but I do remember loving it. I remember loving the scene where they're like slapping each other. I don't know.
Oh,
I
it's-
just, is
the
Olympia
scene-
Dukakis in this?
She sure
Okay,
is.
that's
She
what I
fucking
thought.
kills it too.
She's her mother,
She
Loretta's
She is
mom.
fantastic. My favorite scene, and this is one of those scenes that I feel like is the best example of how chewing scenery can work and not be a negative. You know, when he's like, "I lost my hand, I lost my bride," you know, and I can
Get in
I won't-
frame.
Yeah, sorry.
so
Bring back my-
good.
And not to like quote the whole scene, which I could, but it's because it's so ridiculous. Like, why is he talking about and he's like holding up his fake hand? Like, this would be so stupid if it wasn't Nicolas Cage.
And also, it's funny. Like,
like-
it's supposed to be
Yeah.
funny. This is a comedy. You
Right.
know what I mean? But also, you're like,
but it is dramatic though.
and you look at Cher's reaction in that scene, and she's like, "You need to calm down.
Yeah.
You're out of control." And for the people in the chat who are saying, "Wait, Cher was in The Mask?" No, Cher
No,
was not
Mask.
in The Mask. Cher was in a movie
Mask.
called Mask, which is a great movie. You should check it out.
It is a great movie. I want to say she must have been nominated for Mask.
I don't know.
There-
I don't
I-
know if
she
she
Ben.
was.
We'll find out.
I
We'll
feel
find.
like
We
she
have a fact
was.
checker.
I love it.
Sometimes, but I feel like, yeah, that Mask is an incredible movie and one that's hard to watch.
Sure.
Remind me. So she plays the mom of a boy
Rocky
who has
Dennison.
Is it elephantitis? Like I don't. He has a facial deformity.
Yeah.
but I don't know exactly the name of it.
and is it Eric Schultz?
Yes,
Eric
it's Eric
Stoltz,
Stoltz.
yeah.
Eric Stoltz.
And it's based on a true story.
Mhm.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
That is not one of our movies for our
It's
links.
not.
No,
But
But-
again, we always
sorry.
talk about movies that aren't linked up. It
That's
just goes
true.
into
It goes
discussion.
into it.
Clark, what's your other movie that you've brought today?
My-
Let's see if we can get this.
Okay, my
We're
other
gonna figure it
movie
out.
is one of my favorites as well, top 10 definitely, and it is The Apartment. Billy Wilder's The Apartment.
Oh.
So this is Jack Lemmon, Shirley MacLaine, and this movie, it's a classic. It's so good. I just rewatched it actually at Christmas time, and I forget that it is kind of an unofficial holiday movie.
Mm.
And because and so the basic premise is that Shirley MacLaine plays Fran Kubelik, and she is she's not a secretary, she's an elevator girl, and at this office building, and she's having an affair with Mr. Sheldrake, who's one of the bosses, and all these men in this building are using Jack Lemmon's apartment to bring
their
their ladies
affairs.
there.
Yes.
Exactly. And so something really tragic happens with Shirley MacLaine's character, and so she and Jack Lemmon are forced to spend 3 days together or whatever. And it's so funny, it's so sweet, it's so real, and it's one of my favorite like Christmas New Year's movies that kind of goes under the radar.
This is on my list of movies that I have missed.
Gotta see it.
I haven't
That
seen it either.
needs to come to me on DVD via Netflix.
I could have lent it to you. You should have
Oh.
told me. I would have brought it. I have it on DVD.
Divid. Yes, Ben.
She was nominated for nothing.
What?
Not for Mask,
Ah,
but Eric Stoltz was Eric Stoltz.
I don't think so. Like I don't see any
Anything for nothing
nominations
for Mask?
really for Mask as a whole.
Interesting.
this is sad news.
Yeah, what a-
sad
what a
news.
travesty.
Back to the apartment.
But yeah,
Thank you, Ben.
so The Apartment, also I have it in my notes here, nominated for like a zillion Oscars. Best Picture, Best Director, Best Screenplay, Art Direction, Film Editing, and I think it won Screenplay and Art Direction and Editing.
Cool.
It won those three.
Nice.
So yeah, it's such a great movie, you guys. And I know like it's easy to look at old movies and go,
Mhm.
I wouldn't like this, but this is a movie that is so fresh. I mean,
Mhm.
aside from the fact of like, them asking Jack Lemmon's character how much he pays in rent, and he's like, it's $20 a month or whatever he says. It's something insane for
How
this
nice
like
is that?
1-bedroom apartment in Manhattan.
Mhm.
But aside from that, like it's a very contemporary story, and I think Billy Wilder is one of my favorite directors. He's just so good. But also that's a theme that sort of goes through his work, is this really funny, sad, true life stories,
Mhm.
just about people. And so I love The Apartment.
Okay, so I was thinking, what could the link be? And then I was like, awesome female protagonists.
Oh, okay, that's a good guess.
That's
Do you
my
know-
only
do you have a
guess.
guess?
Guess right
I
now.
don't have a guess. I have no idea. People that all live in the same apartment.
Chat.
The same,
do you have a guess?
Relationships that work that shouldn't work.
No. Do you want me
Okay.
to tell you what it is?
What's your link?
Let's see if there's any other guesses. Although the problem is we're on a delay.
Oh, I
so
see.
then they'll like start coming
Oh,
Fair
after.
enough.
I just keep thinking about Eric Stoltz and Anaconda. He was in Anaconda, right? I don't know. I know he's barely in that movie. And now we talked about Eric Stoltz and now I'm thinking about Anaconda. So to be honest,
With
I'm
Ice
not very
Cube
focused
and
on it
Jennifer
right now.
Lopez.
That's
J Lo
That's
and
right.
John Voight
Yep.
doing a weird like
Accent.
like Brazilian accent. Anyway,
Wait,
again,
did you see that thriller that came out recently that's kind of like The Apartment but gone wrong, because like everyone goes to this apartment. There are all these businessmen that go to this apartment
movie's
that
terrible.
like
Do you
kill
know?
people.
Oh,
I don't
I
remember.
remember.
No, I don't know that
It was
one.
it was like within the last
it was
3 years.
awful. Okay, you guys.
You know
keep
who was in
guessing,
it?
I'll reveal.
Jerry O'Connell, right? Was he in
No,
that?
no, no,
Oh, okay,
hold on,
never mind.
hold
I don't know
on.
what movie. I'm thinking of Sinbad as a genie right now.
What's the actor from Prison Break? What's his name?
I don't
Wentworth
know.
Miller. Okay, hold on.
Oh, you're
Well,
gonna
should
get
should I reveal
Yes.
what the link is?
Yes.
The link is that To a Fish Called Wanda, these are Oscar-winning comedies.
Oh, I
So,
like
As we
that.
know, comedies never win anything at the Oscars, let alone are they
Mhm.
nominated. And Kevin Kline winning for his performance in A Fish Called Wanda was just like so out of left field. Like the fact that he was even nominated in the first place was out of left
Right.
field, but the fact that he won, and keep in mind he won post Sophie's Choice.
Oh wow.
Like, I mean, he's, that, so anyway, The Apartment won 3 Oscars, I want to say, and Olympia Dukakis and Cher and Best Screenplay I believe, all went to Moonstruck.
Love it.
Fantastic. The Loft is the movie I was
The
thinking.
I
Loft.
have never heard
Terrible film. Oh my god, it was in
What
like,
year?
well, that was the thing, is that they shot it in like 2010, like a long time ago.
Huh.
They didn't release it till like 2014. It's got
'Cause
Carl
it was not
Urban,
good.
James Marsden, Wentworth Miller,
Wow, what a great cast.
Eric Stone Street. It's got Mathis Skonartz. Oh, I forget how to say his name. I'm so sorry. Fantastic actor who's been in like so many great films. And it's like the worst movie I've ever seen. Like
Okay.
everyone is doing such a shitty job. It's so weirdly shot and edited, and it's all because it was in like editing hell for years and years, and it's just so like mixed up, and it makes no sense, and it's terrible acting, and you're just like, what is happening? Eric Stone Street plays
I don't know why I
fire
got
in
this
it.
to this place, and
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I don't know. But we don't need to talk about The Loft, but it's really, really, and not a so bad it's good kind of
Yeah,
way. It's
just
just
bad.
a terrible,
bad.
painful watch. So
Yipes.
Let's go to our links. So we went
Okay.
from Labyrinth, then we linked it to movies that released it through from 86 to 88, and we went to A Fish Called Wanda as well as The Princess Bride.
Mhm.
And from A Fish Called Wanda, Clark linked it to comedies that have won Oscars with Moonstruck as well as The Apartment. Now, do we want to reveal our link? It's going to be so easy. You're going to guess it real quick.
Yeah.
But we want to see if you can guess our link?
Okay.
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 So we're going off of The Princess Bride, and I'm
Yeah.
starting with Waiting for Guffman,
Okay.
which came out
Christopher
January.
Guest.
Ah, right away.
You got it. Okay, January 31st, 1997. Have you seen Waiting for Guffman?
Yeah.
Okay, good, because Stacy and Ben both
I
have
have
not seen
not.
Waiting
We
for
haven't.
Guffman. And so I was like, what? How did you miss this?
I feel like anyone who did theater in high school past 1996 when this movie came out has seen Waiting for Guffman.
This is about aspiring director
Shame
and
on you.
the marginally talented amateur cast of a hokey small town Missouri musical production go overboard when they learn that someone from Broadway will be in attendance at their show. Directed by Christopher Guest, written by Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy, although most of it is just improvised. There's very few scenes that are actually scripted. Starring Christopher Guest and Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara, Parker Posey, Fred Willard, Bob Balaban,
The
as well as
usual
others.
suspects.
The
Yep,
usual
yep.
suspects. It was made
All the
for
good old
$4 million, but only made $2.8 million at the box
Oh.
office. I'm sure that it's kind of found a little bit more of a life.
Definitely.
cult-wise.
following for sure.
This is Meryl Streep's favorite movie.
Really?
I was like, has this been updated? Who put this in here? But they had, out of everything that they shot, they had over 60 hours to cut down. I was like, how do you do that? Because you don't have a through line specific story that you're working with because you're doing all this improvisation. How does that work?
It's really interesting to listen to both Christopher Guest and Jamie Lee Curtis, because Jamie Lee Curtis, there's your link, is married to Christopher Guest.
Oh,
What?
yes.
And
Yes.
I did not know
yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. And but it's really interesting to listen to them talk about his process, because it really is made all in the editing, and he does that on purpose. I mean, he's clearly overshooting so that he can sort of pare it all down. But like, he's given a handful of really interesting interviews, like to Kevin Pollak on his show and stuff like that. But it's really and other people who are like collaborators, like frequent regulars, like Jane Lynch and all these other great comedic talents have talked about working with him. It's really interesting.
I would love to work with him. I'm sure it would be a lot of fun.
I feel
but
like
it would be hard.
so scary. 'Cause he's also notoriously like a really hard, like he doesn't laugh, and or if he does, you are like, you've done something really amazing.
Yeah.
And so
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's
But that's kind of good though, because they're doing so much off the cuff that you don't want to laugh at what other people are doing because you want it to work in the scene too. So there's that as well. I don't know how they do it. I love that they do it. I'm glad I get to watch it. I feel like Waiting for Guffman is definitely something these two friends need to see for
We
sure.
shall, we
especially
shall.
if you did
And
high
we
school
watched
theater
the
or did
trailer.
any
We
theater.
watched the trailer.
Now,
It's
I
fantastic.
said I like Waiting for Guffman better than Best in Show, which is
Ugh.
our other film. But I don't know if it's a matter of I saw this first, so I like it more than the other, because that could be the reason. But I do like Waiting for Guffman more than Best in Show. But Stacey, you're going to take it on the Best in Show here because
So
you haven't seen the other.
I haven't seen Waiting for Guffman. We watched the trailer. I love Christopher Guest films. Of course, I'm gonna love Waiting for Guffman. I need to see it, right? But Best in Show was one of those movies that like my parents all loved it and were like, kids, you have to see this movie. And then we all watched it together as a family and all quote it to each other. And it's just kind of that staple comedy that the Howard household had, on at all times. So Best in Show, for those of you who don't know, came out in 2000. A colorful array of characters compete at a national dog show. Directed by Christopher Guest and starring the same people that are always in Christopher Guest movies. Parker Posey, Michael Hitchcock, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, Bob Balaban, Will Sasso, Christopher Guest, Michael McKean, John Michael Higgins. It was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Comedy or Musical. Best in Show, okay. Whenever I revisited this movie, I realized that the hosts from Best in Show, is it
Fred Willard?
Fred Willard.
I don't know the other guy's name.
And then the other guy's name remind me so much of our show.
It is because the
I'm
one
the
guy
Fred
does
Willard
all the
character.
research and the other person just comes
Just
in
kinda-
not knowing anything and just going.
Just going on tangents.
That's your dynamic,
You know?
though. That's what makes it work.
That's right.
It's exactly our
It is.
dynamic, which I think is a great dynamic to have, you guys.
Mhm.
Half the time I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just talk a lot and end up saying something, somewhat colorful and about the movie. So, there you go. But this movie it's just so funny because you wouldn't think that a national dog show would be interesting or funny at all. And they turned it into such like a circus that you're like, surely this isn't real. People aren't this dramatic about dog shows.
Oh, I'm sure they are. Ben used
They
to
are.
show dogs.
Yeah, no, like not all of them, but you will find those people,
I love
especially
it.
with bigger breeds.
It's just like
Where it's
being
insane.
a stage mom.
Oh, so the bigger the breed, the bigger the personality?
Well, like
of
no,
the
I don't mean
shower?
like bigger in terms of actual size. I mean
Uh-huh.
like some breeds are a lot more popular. So golden retrievers will have a ton of people, and it's really competitive.
Uh-huh.
But then like
Like
the dogs
cutthroat.
I showed are these little tiny dogs no one knows about.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like a small group of people that were basically all friends.
Mhm.
So that was fine. If you're a big,
There
significant
needs to be
breed,
a reality show about
oh,
dog
I would
shows.
watch it.
There
It'd
could be.
It
Yeah,
would
I
be
think there
a
might be.
madhouse.
There was about groomers before.
Really?
There was a reality show on Bravo, I think, about groomers.
No,
Mhm.
I want to see like the dogs. I want it to be this movie but real life. And
Okay.
I want to see like
Sure,
the
it's
dog
easy.
showers. I want to see their owners. I want to see their like terrible broken lives and like all they
Yeah.
have is this goddamn teacup poodle to show. Like
I
just
want to be
want
the
that.
rich person that like hires the person to do all the stuff for the dog,
and, have
then
a lesbian affair.
yeah,
That'd be fantastic.
why not? I mean,
And
that's
start
the
a
easiest
magazine
way to go.
Called American Bitch.
I like to throw
Yes,
money at
that's great.
things. It's kind of how my life is.
There you go.
All right, you do this for me, and then
I'll pay
I'll come in
you.
and take the credit at the end.
You got now. You can't
Wouldn't
forget
that be
the
great?
pom-poms. They keep our hips warm. Okay, that scene always makes me laugh so hard. Every scene makes me laugh so hard. If you haven't seen it, you need to watch Best in Show. It's again a completely improvised, not completely improvised. They have like a 16-page outline for this movie basically, and then of course improvise a lot of the scenes based on what they wanted to happen in the story. And you can connect it to his other films like This is Spinal Tap, when the hotel manager is explaining. So a lot of people bring their dogs to stay at the specific hotel because they allow dogs, one of the only ones in the area. And the hotel manager is saying how he has to have all the special cleaning supplies to clean up all the dogs, like, poop and pee pee and everything. And he was talking about how they had a rock group come in and they had to use like all this like strong industrial cleaning stuff for this rock group
Yes.
because they like roasted a goat or something in the room. And that band is of course Spinal Tap from
Yes.
the Spinal Tap. So there you go.
It's all got to be in the same universe. It makes
It's all in the
sense.
same universe.
It makes
It's all
sense.
connected, and I love it.
I did like that Parker Posey actually got braces
She
for
did.
this role. Like
She
they weren't
did.
just like put on right before doing your scene. They were
Mhm.
actual braces.
She got real braces. Christopher
I wouldn't do it.
Guest, wrote down just the word. I think he was like brainstorming, or one day he was just having a thought, and he just wrote down the phrase "catalog people," and then that, of course,
Hmm.
eventually came into Parker Posey and her husband's whole persona of being catalog people. I don't even know how that's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing, but this movie makes it seem like that's being raised on catalogs is, a lifestyle, and that's wonderful because I would have loved to have been raised on catalogs.
Yeah, the Sears catalog used to be a big deal.
Yeah,
Big deal.
you used to pick out everything.
So there it is. We went
Yeah.
from Labyrinth. We linked it to movies that came out between 86 and 88, and we did A Fish Called Wanda as well as The Princess Bride from A Fish Called Wanda. Clark linked it to comedies that have won Oscars with Moonstruck as well as The Apartment from The Princess Bride. We linked it to Christopher Guest films with Waiting for Guffman as well as Best in Show. And now we are going to do movie link tweets. I basically tweet out our first link, which is what is your favorite movie released between 86 and 88? And you gave me some tweets back. So here's what we got. Die Hard, President Diego, Jacob Sanchez, and Bill all say Die Hard. Drew Jacobs and Ben Bellevue, hey, say Princess Bride.
Hey,
Mark Bernardin and Patrick A. Crone, Adam
Bernardin.
Mills
Hi,
say
Mark.
Aliens. Ashley Davis says Spaceballs. Sky Movies. Spencer Perry. Mike Cole say
Spencer.
RoboCop. Ashley Sarobo says The Untouchables. Garrett Nice, David Noel, and Tawny say Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Eric Monroe, Kevin Marquez say Willow. KC9
Willow.
and
Willows.
Bill say Top Gun, and Sarah Risley, Sean Lewis, and Michael House say Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Oh, Roger Rabbit. Those are so good. Willow is in my top 20 for sure.
that's
Roger
another one I
Rabbit.
haven't seen.
Whoa.
That's one I've seen, but I need to revisit because I just watched a YouTube video that breaks down Willow, and I was like, oh, man, I gotta see this again.
Willow's
So many
great.
female kick-ass leads in
Dude,
that,
I
taking over the
just
country.
Rewatched Willow because I knew I was going to be interviewing Ron Howard, and we have this joke on at Nerdist that I always somehow bring up Willow in my
Mhm.
in my junket interviews. And so finally I was sitting down with Ron Howard and I talked to him about it, and but rewatching the movie, it is a world driven by women, which is
Mhm. I
amazing.
love that.
And Val Kilmer is so good. I
Mhm.
mean, it's funny because he's not a movie star really anymore.
Mhm.
Right.
But God, action hero, funny, dramatic, romantic. He's just
really,
amazing.
I'm gonna have to watch Willow.
I love
The
Willow.
only thing I know or kind of have heard about Willow, and it's not even really about the film, Warwick Davis, fantastic actor, and he has a show on HBO called Life's Too Short, and they it's kind of like a parody of his actual life, and he talks about Willow, and what's the Val Kilmer comes on the show and makes a cameo as himself, and it's super hilarious. So you need to watch Life's Too Short then on the episode where they reunite and talk about
Aw.
Willow.
I've
It's
seen
great.
it. Yeah.
Oh
Oh yeah.
shit! Okay.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, here I am just blabbing about.
No,
stuff
it's
you already know
great.
about.
They
Sorry.
definitely people should watch it. It's a great. I love that show. I love
It's
Ricky
hila-
Gervais.
His assistant, she's
Yes.
amazing. She's done enough stuff. She's absolutely hilarious. Okay, so we always try and link it back to Kevin Bacon with our show because 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
That's so funny.
Kevin Bacon was in Footloose with Chris Penn, and Chris Penn was in Mulholland Falls with Jennifer Connelly, who was in Labyrinth. So there you go, linking it
There it
back
is.
all to the beginning.
Love it.
And now for our final segment where we ask, would Labyrinth be better with Sylvester Stallone as Rocky, as Jareth?
As
Is that who
Jared.
it? There we go. Stacy does an
Rocky.
impression of Rocky, and now this has become our bit at the end of our show every single time.
I do. Okay. Here we go. Focus up, Stacey. I ask for so little. Just feel me, love me, do as I say, and I'll be your slave. Yo!
Nailed it.
Ah.
Nailed it.
I knew exactly
you,
who
thank
that
you.
was.
Yes.
I love
yes.
it. I
Now,
love it.
the very last thing I want to do, I want to start another bit called Stacy's Thoughts, since I always come with random things, random thoughts that one might have during a movie. So while I was watching Labyrinth, these are the things that just popped into my head. I've had to Google 15 times how to spell Labyrinth, and I still don't think I'm spelling it right.
Yeah.
When does David Bowie show up with his big package? Jennifer Connelly is too pretty. It isn't fair. Ludo
Yes.
will be the name of my firstborn. Did we really need farting rocks?
No,
And
I
the
don't think
last-
so.
The last one is just hashtag Bowie Bulge. So there you go.
Good.
Stacey's
Good. I like
thoughts.
it.
Let me know
Very
if you
nice.
guys like that. Tweet me and tell me, and we'll do that. We'll make it a regular thing. We'll do that for every feature film we do. But I wanted to
Cool.
test it out for this one. So
Okay, great.
okay.
Clark, thank you so much for coming on
Of
this
course.
show.
Thanks for having me, you two
Yay!
ladies.
Where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Clark Wolf, Clark with an E, Wolf with an E on all the social medias. And you can find me hosting Collider Nightmares every Wednesday at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. However, I'll give you a little sneak peek, a little breaking news here.
Ooh.
This coming Wednesday, Nightmares is going to be live. We're going to stream
Oh,
live at
nice.
1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Wednesday. So check it out. And a new episode just dropped today. So you can watch today's
Fantastic.
episode, and then next Wednesday you can catch us live. on Collider Radio.
Awesome. I love it. So then do you plan on like chat interaction, or that's not?
No, I think we're gonna try. I'm gonna try and pull tweets. I'm not gonna manage the chat, but
Okay.
I'll try and pull live tweets.
Nice. Cool.
Fantastic.
Stacy.
You can find me on Twitter at SOHoward2012. You can find me on Instagram at Stacey O. Howard. Live tweeting movies all the time. There you go. Where
Cool.
can we find you?
You can find me trying to get an appointment to get my passport renewed in Redondo Beach. Also, you can find me on Twitter at Miss Movies. And that's about it. I think that's all I got.
All right. There you go.
So thank you all for joining
Love
us.
it.
We
Yay.
will see you next time. So
Bye,
bye.
guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.